I mean, obviously, FIFA and the Football World Championships are taking place in Qatar. I'm not interested in any way in football, but I am interested in the politics surrounding it because it's kind of embarrassing that all we have is we can be patriot as long as it's gay pride and foreigners evil. It's like, huh.
And also, we talk about civil rights and human rights abuses all the time, but only in the framework of the rights of gay people, and never once mention Islam.
Yeah. Well, it does come up a little bit, actually. So anyway, before we go on, go and sign up to lotus.com, go watch this hangout. Is Tony Blair based? Because Tony Blair is pretty much the reason why our national dialectic is advancing gay rights and against nationalism. So, okay, thanks, Tony. Is he based? The answer is, of course, no.
That's why we have a parallel flag flying
but
everywhere.
Yes, exactly. And he can see how far this has all gone. It's gone a lot further than he thought it was going to go. He was really looking for our values, you see. And what have our values become? Well, it's literally just become gay rights. Anyway, let's begin with a couple of silly things like beer being banned in Qatar.
Yep.
Yeah, fine. What do you expect? I mean, it's in the stadium itself, not outside of the stadium, so you can still get drunk and go watch the matches. So don't worry about that. But you know, that happens in lots of stadiums, like because of football hooliganism. Like England's ever been famous for that. Anyway, moving on, right. So Ian Hislop on Have I Got News For You was criticising Gary Neville for this, because he's like, oh, how could you? How could you take Qatar's money? He's like, well, I'm going to go over there and challenge them in person. Sure you will, on their money. But this is the argument, because Qatar is evil because it's Islamic.
Agreed.
I mean, I didn't say it. That's Ian Hislop's argument. And all of the woke progressives who are criticising people like David Beckham, who has become Qatar's football ambassador. As Fox Sports points out, he's one of the faces of the FIFA World Cup, working as an ambassador for the Arab nation in one of the many ways he's trying to use this tournament as a vehicle to rebrand the country.
It does make me laugh that he once described himself as a feminist, so I presume that David Beckham now holds the position that Islam was always right about women.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just that either. Qatar is something like 12% Qatari, with 86 or 88% foreign workers. And we say, I'm not even joking.
Really? So it's some sort of dictatorial ethno-supremacist minority who hold all the oil money?
Yes.
Lording over an underclass. That's...
essentially a slave class.
Wow.
Yeah, of foreign workers, right? So, not exactly a great place. And so there are lots of legitimate criticisms that people are making, like, well, what about workers' rights? What about the treatment of women? What about the treatment of gays? So, yeah, it's an incredibly...
repressive place.
It's an incredibly traditionally Islamic place.
Yes.
Right? That's what it is. And, I mean, you know, you want to go and hold the World Cup there, that's fine, but expect what they are like. They're not progressives. They're not Western progressives. Shock and surprise. But the weird thing is why Beckham is doing this, right? He's worth $748 million, right? And he's getting paid $264 million over 10 years to be the face of Qatari tourism. So why is he doing this?
Maybe it's the naivety of the golden goalposts theory of where they think they'll export material prosperity by putting the...
No, it's not material prosperity. The Qataris have got lots of material prosperity because of oil wealth, right?
True.
What is moral righteousness. Yeah. This is a crusade.
Yes.
That's why, right? And they get paid handsomely for it. So anyway, the one of the points in here is bolstering the brand worth doing the damage he's doing to his own brand, right? Because he is. And this got kicked up by a comedian called Joe Lycett, who put up this video and the website Benders Like Beckham, because apparently David Beckham's a gay icon, despite not being gay. Yeah. But he was like, look, you either proclaim your fealty to the gay community and give up your Qatari paymasters, the $250 million that you're being paid, or I'm going to shred 10 grand of my own money, which isn't really much of a threat, is it?
No.
Why does David Beckham care if you shred 10 grand of your own money? I mean, he doesn't.
No.
Right?
There's no leverage held over him there.
Yeah, exactly. There's no leverage whatsoever, apart from the lack of... the mandate from the gay community will be rescinded. It's like, okay. So Beckham was like, well, look, I'm not going to do that, actually. The Guardian reported that he was going to be a progressive in Qatar, which is very interesting. The issue of workers and LGBTQ rights proceeds to be a theme in the build-up to the World Cup, along with questions over how much Qatar has changed after being awarded the tournament in 2010. Remember, in 2010, the world wasn't so progressive. There wasn't the current thing. It wasn't that the only moral legitimacy the West had is to enable homosexuality around the world.
No.
Like there were other things the West was proud of at that point.
Yeah.
Now, 12 years later, Qatar's just like, what the hell are you talking about? You knew
Yeah.
what we were. We haven't changed. You've changed.
Yeah, we bought our way into this not expecting that you'd have
Turn into
your
a bunch of
moral
lunatics.
values entirely subverted from within, and
And
now
entirely dictated by Twitter.
yeah,
Because
and
in
importing them to
2010,
us.
social media was not the thing that it is now.
No.
And so no one would have seen this coming. And so everyone's just like, what the hell? So Beckham has been criticised by LGBT plus groups, including the Three Lions Pride group, which it's embarrassing how captured football is by Twitter. But Beckham has said that Qatar and its ambassadors were changing lives for the better. This is lovely, right? Listen to this. Every one of the great players I was lucky enough to play with started in exactly the same way, in the back garden, a park, or the street outside their home, with just a ball and an imagination they dared let to run wild. Almost 2 decades ago, a small group of football lovers from Qatar had an equally fantastic dream that they could bring the greatest football show on earth to their home country and to the Middle East for the first time. And now here we are, because when dreams are harnessed and mixed with dedication and hard work, they are no longer dreams, they become reality.
That's right. Those 10-year-old Qatari boys making
Beautiful.
goalposts out of the skulls of migrant workers.
Yeah,
in their back
exactly.
garden.
Sorry, but I love the corporate BS progressive speak. It's like, no. Qatar is the new progressive place. And so this is him. That was his words, apparently.
Right.
Obviously not his words.
No.
Right. Hey, David Beckham, I
Not
actually quite
so
like...
eloquent.
Yeah, I like David Beckham, but that's not how he speaks. But anyway, so Joe Lycett was like, well, I'm going to shred my 10 grand then. And apparently put it into a wood chipper, which was dumb. I mean, I suppose, you're going to be a man of your word. Although, is it true that he
he
didn't?
He recently, an hour ago, just as we went live, came out and did a video and saying, of course I wouldn't be so irresponsible as to shred my own money because of all the bad press. He had also pre-taped it, so he was willing to
Right.
put it out, had shock value. Tweet is unavailable. Has he
Maybe
deleted
Twitter's
it?
having
No, he
problems.
hasn't. Yeah. So
Maybe Twitter doesn't need their stuff.
he'd filmed it at the same time this reveal as actually shredding it. So he'd always intended to say, "Oh, obviously I wasn't so responsible." So this is just a big PR campaign for his ailing comedy career.
And he also knew that David Beckham wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
So it's just a big virtue signal.
Yes.
But anyway, so that was a dumb virtue signal because that's literally the only moral standing that they have.
He also shredded a copy of a 2002 gay magazine that had David Beckham on the front cover.
Didn't shred the Quran though, did he?
No.
Which is why Qatar holds these opinions. Very brave, much progressive. Anyway, Germany really won up the the English team, right? We sent a plane that had rainbow written on it with a very small pride flag. Apparently it's on the guy's foot
Isn't
this.
Isn't
right?
this the meme of the Middle Eastern bombing run with the BLM fist and the
Yes, it
rainbow
is, yeah.
flag painted on it?
Yeah, except this is how we were sending the England team there. And Germany were like, "Pfft, that's nothing. You're like a little baby. Look at this. Diversity wins," with all of the new Germans plastered across theirs. And I'm like, okay, hang on a second. Qatar's a very diverse place.
Yeah.
It's got slaves of every race and nationality. Like, it's ruled over by 100% diverse Arab ethno-caste.
Is the L in LGBTQ stand for Luftwaffe now or something?
But, like, the diversity, that wasn't the question.
Yes.
The question was women's rights, homosexual rights, or workers' rights. Not,
Now you're going too far, Carl.
but not diversity of race. But this is what this tells you. This is, everything's been homogenized into the mono narrative. If I say diversity, I mean LGBTQ. That's the thing. It's all been like the progressive mono narrative is being stamped on everything, as if the Qataris are white nationalists. Like, what are you talking about? Diversity wins.
Qataris white.
Yeah, exactly. This is so stupid, right? But you can see that the airline themselves, they put out a statement saying that Lufthansa, which is the name of the airline, is a byword for openness, tolerance, diversity, and bringing people together, and that the company welcomed everyone on board, regardless of gender, age, ethnicity, religion, nationality, identity, or sexual orientation.
Well, they look remarkably white, all the men that are coming down the stairs there.
Sure, but the point is, the term diversity, it doesn't mean now multiple races. Now it means literally everything progressive.
Yeah.
And it's probably meant that for a while. And so FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, was forced to come out and give like an hour-long ramble.
Yes.
I watched this when I was doing the dishes the other night because I was just like, what the hell is going on here, right? Today I feel gay, I feel disabled, I feel a migrant worker.
That's somehow you doing the dishes rather than your wife is far less emasculating than whatever the hell he's
No,
just
it's just
said.
it's the one job that I agree to in the entire house.
Oh, so you don't trust her to do it.
No. It's just she particularly hates doing the dishes, and
Okay.
I actually don't care. So I'm fine with that compromise, right? So but this was remarkable, right? So it's the whole thing. There was nothing really clippable out of it. Otherwise, I would have got some clips. But this whole thing was remarkable because it was just. He was essentially like morally rebuking them from a progressive perspective, implying that they were racist for critiquing the Qataris' record on human rights or women's rights or gay rights or whatever, right? He's basically claiming that Europeans are equally as racist and intolerant as the Qataris. So what are you talking about? He was an Italian immigrant to Switzerland and he was treated exactly like a Qatari migrant worker.
Didn't he say he was beaten up at school for being ginger? And so it's
Yes.
exactly like the people that have been thrown in the foundations of the Qatar stadium, like they're building a Soviet canal.
Basically the same, yes. And so he was essentially came down to, look, we can't make them better if we don't bring them into the club. It's like, that's remarkable. That's remarkable. And so if we can't improve Qatar's morality with grandstanding, then we have to go over there and incorporate them into the West, where he believes essentially they will be slowly subverted out of Islam
So colonize Qatar.
and into the Western moral framework. And the Western moral framework doesn't prize virtue or excellence. Inclusivity, that's all it prizes. And eventually we will subvert the Qataris through our superior Western morals.
Isn't this just John Stuart Mill's imperialism for tolerance?
Yes,
Right.
that's exactly
okay.
what this is.
Hence, another reason to hate utilitarianism.
But this is the only moral framework that the West has now. You can't say they do such a thing. You can't say the Qataris are bad because they are being evil to people. You can't say that they're bad because they're exploiting foreign labor.
No,
like
because we do that.
Yeah, like colonialists. No. We can't criticize them on anything that might approach a perspective of virtue. No, it just has to be utilitarian progressivism. That's the only moral standard that we have left. Right. Anyway, so moving on, the FIFA were like, look, don't wear the One Love armbands because again, not wearing an England flag, no, wearing the Pride flag. It's like, great, okay, and they were like, no. The Football Association were like, no, everyone's going to wear these Pride flag armbands.
Right.
I mean, it's no real difference to having a swastika, in my opinion.
No.
It's just another political armband, which is kind of cringe. But they're like, no, this is what we stand for. Damn it, gays. Gays everywhere. Gays all around the world. That's all we stand for.
So we kneel for blacks and stand for gays.
Yes. Well, we'll get to
Thanks
the
for
kneeling
the
in a minute.
update.
We'll get to the kneeling in a minute, right? So, Harry Kane was adamant that he would wear the armband in the first game against Iran.
Right.
Stunning, brave. I'm sure the Iranians are going to let he's wearing the armband. That's it. Call off all the gay executions. Like, if you wore an England flag, that would also be incorporated into it. Like the flag of England actually has moral significance.
Yes.
Not killing gay people is part of that because rights. Okay, never mind. Let's move on. Right. England and Wales will defy the edict, with Kane and Bale set to wear the armbands that feature the rainbow slogan after they agreed to do so for the tournament with other major European nations in a bid to highlight issues surrounding the tournament in Qatar. We respect FIFA's request, but we are committed to wearing our One Love armbands in this World Cup, said one Football Association source. And therefore, it's like, no, we're going to be woke. Screw you. Okay, fair enough. FIFA were like, if you do this, you will not be playing in the tournament. They're like, well, I mean, okay, I'm not going to wear the armband then. I mean, Christ, I'm going to stand on these morals until it costs me something.
Yes.
And then, if you go to the next one, the Football Association with 6 others confirmed it will not ask its captain to wear the anti-discriminatory armband in Qatar after FIFA made it clear they risk being immediately booked from their games for wearing unapproved equipment. And they're like, yeah, well, we were prepared to pay fines but for breaching kit regulations, but we cannot put our players in a situation where they might even be booked or forced to leave the field of play. It's like, okay, so that bent the knee really quick, didn't it? FIFA were like, you get banned. Oh, fine. We're very frustrated by the FIFA decision, which we believe is unprecedented. We wrote to FIFA in September informing them of our wish to wear the One Love armband to actively support inclusion in football and had no response. Our players and coaches are disappointed. They are strong supporters of inclusion and will show support in other ways. So we wanted to wear it for religious reasons, and the Qataris didn't want us to wear it for religious reasons.
Well, if they're supporting inclusion in football, can they support including me in their payroll? Because I'm shit at football, but I'd quite like to be included in how much money you're getting.
No, but we're looking at the conflict of two religions here, right? Yeah. And so, right, okay, well, we need to be passive-aggressive about this. So instead of the BBC hosting the Qatari football introductory ceremony, no, they instead got Gary Lineker giving us a woke lecture.
Well, I'm glad they got an authentic black man to...
Good point. Yeah, I forgot about that. Gary Lineker's racial ambiguity apparently meant people were racist to him. It's like, Gary, no, they weren't, mate. You know, you at best look like you've got a suntan.
Yeah, you look like white Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, sorry, just no. But anyway, in its opening ceremony, there was lots of diversity and inclusion. Right? It was designed to cater to a Western audience, but they were like, no, viewers watching on BBC One tuned in to a discussion between presenters, Gary Lineker and Alex Scott, which was criticism leveled at Qatar.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's lots of reasons to criticize Qatar, but like, does it have to be Gary Lineker, the sports ball commentator, like the insufferably woke guy? And if you go to the next one, Gary Lineker opened the BBC's coverage of the Qatar World Cup to criticise the host country's record on human rights and the treatment of migrant workers, as to the build-up towards the build-up of the first match of the tournament was dominated by a discussion of off-field concerns. It's like, yes, thank you, Mr. Football Pundit.
Right, but you didn't forego your salary for it, did you?
No, of course not. And he did this in Qatar as well.
Oh, right, okay.
He's in Qatar while he does this.
Concerned about climate change, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is the most controversial World Cup in history because the Qataris are Islamic and we're not. We're communist. Morgan Freeman was at the opening ceremony. He was a part of it. But you wouldn't have known because you couldn't see the opening ceremony because Gary Lineker was too busy browbeating you about human rights. The funny thing is, right, his entire segment in this opening performance was to promote what they call, quote, the staggeringly and unintentionally ironic message that everyone was welcome in Qatar. As in they were like, no, we're inclusive. Freeman's contribution saw him called across the stage by a Qatari YouTuber called Ghanim Al-Mufta, asking, am I welcome? Al-Mufta, who has a rare spinal condition, responded, we sent out the call because everyone is welcome. This is an invitation to the entire world. They then seemed to address some criticism levelled at Qatar since it was granted the rights in 2010 by suggesting other nations should be accepting of the Qatari way of doing things.
Right, so they're using our own standards against us, saying, you're not being inclusive of Qatar.
Yes. This is very much the sort of Black Panther, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of seeing another way, we dismissed it and we demanded to see our own way. And now the world seems even more distant and divided, Freeman said. How can so many languages and cultures come together if only one way is accepted? Great point. Great point. Is literally homosexual imperialism promoted by the West. You Qataris have to do exactly as we do on gays. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't support what Qatar does with gays.
Nope.
But I also recognise that I've got nothing to do with Qatar.
Yeah, I also don't want to pay to transform their moral values. Thank you very much.
And if you're like, okay, we're going to host a football tournament in the country, I'm like, well, okay, but you know what their rules are.
Yeah.
You know, it's not very pleasant.
Yeah,
but,
play
you know.
stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Exactly. I would have been like, well, don't allow them to host it. Like, you know, don't host it in the Middle East if you don't want them to be Middle Eastern. Anyway, they decided, though, that they can take the knee.
Right.
The last noble act of defiance that the English have is taking the knee in support of George Floyd. What this has to do with Qatar?
Well, number one, two years ago. Number two, if you believe that Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd, despite the amount of fentanyl in the system, then justice has been served. Number three, again, kneeling for George Floyd.
Seems
Poor
rude.
Optics.
Yeah.
Like, at least you kneeled for 9 minutes less than was on the video, I suppose.
They've carried out this anti-racism gesture several times, of course.
Yep.
And Gareth Southgate was like, it's what we stand for as a team and have done for a long period of time. Not winning.
But you're not standing.
Yeah, and you're kneeling. But also, what has Black Lives Matter got to do with Qatar?
Fantastic point.
Like,
Defund the Sharia police?
Yeah, what are you talking about? What have they got to do with George Floyd? Or anti-racism? Are we going to call Qatar racist now?
Yeah.
They're 100% diverse. They're
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about?
Stop being racist. Haha, good. Pick up your pickaxe and get to work.
They say this. We feel this is the biggest, and we think this. It's a strong statement that will go around the world for young people, in particular, to see that inclusivity is very important. And there we go. Again, the mono narrative of current thingism.
Yes.
Like everything. Oh well, we can just put diversity on the thing, and the Qataris will be like, oh no, diversity. We'll just bend the knee for George Floyd. The Qataris like curses. They've got us again. Like you dumbasses. Like they don't see this as a mono narrative. They don't understand what that means. But they're not taking the knee for the Bangladeshi sweatshop workers, though, who made the England kit
Of course not.
for 21p an hour. 160 quid per kit.
Was it in Claudia Webb's constituency by any chance?
Not this time. 60 hours a week in Dhaka.
Right.
Or near Dhaka, sorry. In the sweatshops. That's where Nike's making their England kit.
Right.
FIFA have given them a 12-year contract worth £400 million for the sweatshop labour. But, you know, we've got to bend the knee for George Floyd in Qatar. What nonsense. The incoherent nonsense this is. And the real question is, well, hang on a second. Look, is it safe for a gay person to go to Qatar and watch the football? You know, you can sit there virtue signaling all the time, but should gay fans go? And the Foreign Office is like, no. In its general advice, the Foreign Office says that people should be mindful while the country is making some allowances for World Cup visitors. Qatar is a conservative country. Yes, that's right. Qatar is just your average conservative country. That's a very misleading statement, isn't it? Qatar is an Islamic country. That's what it is, right? And they should be aware of its laws and customs. So what laws and customs should LGBTQ people know about? Well, quite a few, actually. For a start, same-sex sexual activity is illegal under the Penal Code, which faces at least a jail sentence of up to 7 years for sodomy and sexual intercourse.
Is Milo their policy advisor?
No, but while Qatar has denied it's ever happened, under Sharia law, it's technically possible for them to be put to death. So, conservative, Sharia law, conservative, Sharia law. No, Islamic Sharia law, that's the connection. But of course, no one brings that up. They just call the Qataris bad people. And we'll just leave it at that.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the premium videos we do, this one on the politics and philosophy of Mass Effect. If you'd like to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.